I'm Anna, the Yarn Randomizer, and this is episode 11 of the Yarn Randomizer. And I've got not a ton of finished objects, but a couple, and some other stuff to show, and way too many acquisitions after going to a couple of knitting retreats. So we'll get into those. Really quickly, I am original.annasender on Instagram, and the Yarn Randomizer on Ravelry if you want to find me there. All the links are down below, and so we'll get right to it. Actually, one more thing really quick is I just wanted to show folks, for those curious, call myself the Yarn Randomizer because I came up with this idea for picking random choices out of my stash about 5 years ago, and it's really helped me eliminate some of the older yarns in my stash. And that's how I pick most of my projects, come from picking the yarn and then deciding what I'm going to do with it. So and we'll cover a couple of those later in the episode, but right now we'll get right to it. And that is, I have my finished I believe it's the Novice, let's see, bring my notes up, Novice Slipover from Petite Knit. We'll get that straight at some point. Pardon me. I'm going to bring that up really quick. There, okay. Petite Knit. Yeah, there's a couple of similar names out there, but this one's Petite Knit. And so I finished it and got it blocked, and you can see how the color came out and how it, bottom edge, and it turned out really, really nice. I'm very happy with it. The yarn is a madelinetosh work sock sport, but it's really not a sport yarn. This is definitely works up as a DK, pardon me, at the least, and maybe even close to a worsted. Oh, excuse me. And then that is a discontinued yarn. I got it on sale. And the interesting thing about it was it comes in these 400 yard skeins. The ones I bought were being, sold out. Got them for a good deal, and got two of them. They were completely unlabeled when they arrived. And so I had no idea if they were the same, didn't know what the colorway was, didn't know what the if they were in the same dye lot and everything, but I took a chance. They looked like they were, and so I combined those with some drops kid silk that I got on sale from Wool Warehouse, and I'll link them below. I highly recommend, if you're looking for a reasonable cost mohair, that you check them out. And I watch for the kid silk to go on sale, and then you can get it for a really good deal. And usually I'll try to buy a lot, but even with that, they have a flat rate shipping. And I'm not sponsored by anybody, just telling you how I've gone about trying to find mohair to use with projects for a reasonable price. But yeah, I think it turned out great. I love the way the kid silk is very fuzzy. I don't know if you can see the halo. It's very fuzzy, and I think there's a real nice, almost pearly kind of look to the gray with the combination between the two yarns. So I'm very happy with it. So I highly recommend the pattern. The pattern was very easy. I think I did the Italian bind off, but with no setup rows on the cast off at the shoulders and at the bottom edge. You can see that. And I think it turned out pretty well. I think the only hesitation I have is I picked up the neck exactly as described, and it's fine. I picked up the shoulders as described, got the numbers, actually not as described. I altered it a little, but I made sure I picked up the number of stitches called for. I think I've seen a couple of people comment on doing less, and I think I might recommend that. I think I may end up running a little bit of elastic around the edges of the ribbing here to keep it in shape, because you can see it's almost like I have a little bit of an excess of ribbing there. But otherwise, yeah, it's great. It's really cozy and very soft. So that turned out really great. So then, beyond what I'm wearing, we'll get to finished objects. So one of those finished objects is a pair of it was a French pattern that I sort of accidentally picked because I wanted a pair of socks, pardon me, with a cable up the back with some self-striping yarn. And so these les chaussettes de la, I can't even say the next word, but apparently it's Smurfette's socks when you translate it, which I had no idea. But I used some really great coloring book yarn to make this pair of socks, and I used a mini that I had with another sock set to provide the heel, and they turned out great. I probably could have gone, what I wanted to do was I wanted to start the ribbing with the red once I got to one of those repeats, and I probably could have gone another full repeat, although it might have gotten a little long, so I decided to stop there. I also had to play around with the yarn at the end here. The first time I finished one of these socks, it ended up back in the pink at the cast-off edge, and I took some white that I hadn't used and replaced that. So I had to kind of graft in a little bit of extra yarn at the end of each of these socks, which gave me a couple more ends to weave in. But that was the look that I was going for. Now, I don't think I have a cold. I don't know what's going on here, but hopefully that'll clear up eventually. Now, I remember saying I was trying to do something where I did not break the yarn, and I know the way I did some of these short rows in here, I did improve. I feel like I improved that a little bit. So you'll notice on the second sock, I don't have, there's a little spot of red on one where that doesn't exist in the other. And the same is true at the top edge. I adjusted where I started the green so that instead of having a couple of solo stitches there, it just is only above the heel. But I did not have to break the striped yarn at all to put this heel in. And so I feel like the continuity worked really well with those. So now coloring book yarn, I don't know if they're making yarn anymore. I just love these colors. The only problem that I had was, I don't know if you can see it, but I feel like the red kind of bled just a little bit. May have tinted the white a little bit, but I think they look pretty good. And you know, I actually did not use the full pattern, the main pattern here. I mainly used it for the cable. And so let me shift this around so you can get a look at this cable. So what I was really shooting for was this cable right up the back of the sock. And so I feel like that turned out really well. And I also did something, the pattern originally called for a single 1x1 rib up here. I decided to switch it to 2x2, and I had the ribbing, I had the cable split into the rib as a detail at the top here. And I described how I do that in my project notes. But I feel like it turned out really well. You can see the whole thing and how that came up. Let's see if I can get a little more light on that. But yeah, so I just used another sock in a vanilla form and kind of inserted the cable that was part of the pattern on the back. And I think they turned out great. So finish those. One of the things I do not have a problem with, is second sock syndrome. So I tend to, as soon as I finish one sock, I go right to the next one pretty much immediately. And I definitely avoid casting on any new pairs of socks until I finish an existing pair that's on the needles. Now, okay, that was those. And then, let's see. Oh, yes. I'm reading my notation going like, what does that mean? It means, HO means half object. So since I finished those socks, I'd started on my next set of socks. And these were, I'm using a pattern that's one of my favorite. It's probably, I'll have to fess up, it's my favorite sock pattern. So it's the Ringwood sock pattern. And the nice thing about the pattern, it's by Tess Young, and it has instructions for top down or toe up. So whichever way you like to knit, you're all set here as far as doing this. And then they have this wonderful, I feel like it almost looks like, thermal sweatshirt material, kind of a very simple pattern that's in here to use with the sock, which can look good with variegated or plain. I think it looks good either way. And so I've got these half finished, and I'm actually about 75% done. I'm on the leg of the remaining sock. There's the heel and everything. And so it's coming along quickly. My plan is to finish it in the next 4 days. And so if I've got, I'm doing what I call my knitting tacks in the morning, where I'm finishing 5 repeats of the pattern each morning on those socks. But yeah, so they'll be done soon. And one of the things I wanted to comment on is this is Fleece Artists Organic Cottage Socks is the name of this yarn. And one of the things I really love about it is, with variegated yarns, sometimes you never know what you're going to get. Sometimes you get micro striping, sometimes you get really pronounced pooling or flashing. And so one of the things I'm really happy with on this yarn is how random it ended up looking. So it's doing mainly just a kind of a blotchy appearance all over, very consistent. And I love the way it looks. I don't know if there was some specific dye technique they used for the yarn, but it just turned out so nice and random. So it's producing sort of, for me, in the socks, sort of like from the skein to the socks, I'm getting exactly kind of what I was looking for. And so really happy with how those are turning out. And they'll be done very soon. All right. Now, let's see, and that was, so this sweater was Yarn Randomizer Project 9 for the year, and those socks were number 23. Now, and again, I don't necessarily finish these in order, since I'll sometimes I try not to have more than one of any type of project on the needles, but since you can work through socks faster, sometimes I'll be skipping along the list of random choices. All right, and so you'll see that the number kind of gets, depending, if you knit something really big that was your second choice of the year, it'll kind of be going all year round while you work on other things in parallel. Now, all right, so that's the finished object, half object, and now we'll get to works in progress. Now, because I've been doing so much traveling and going to retreats and things like that, there have been a few projects that have been sort of waiting. And so my motorcycle sweater, which is really waiting, my Spice Market shawl, let's see, the cat stuffy, the Jimmy Bean shawl, and my Wednesday sweater are all kind of on hold right now. Now that I'm back from my trips and kind of getting back into the groove of work and stuff at home, I'll get back to those. But in the meantime, I put a lot of concentration into Yarn Randomizer project number 13, which is this When by the Lake sweater. And I want to make sure I get the author up here. And this is by L-I-N-E, Line Pedersen. And so this one is turning out just lovely. And so it would be similar to a ranunculus. It's on large needles. It's some fingering combined with some mohair silk. In this case, it is mohair silk from it's from Ito Sensei. And the main yarn is Dream in Color yarn called Lamb, which is only sold at Gauge in a yarn shop in Austin, Texas. So I think you can see how this yarn has little bits of color in there, and I really like how they've shown up through the sweater. So basically I'm all the way done down to the ribbing, and I have to, basically I'm on sleeve island at this point. One of the things that happened in this pattern was you can see the short rows in the back. When I originally did those, it was pretty clear to me that there was a mistake in the instructions. I messaged the author and she published a correction right away. So yeah, so you'll, hopefully, I've got to work on some, all I have to do on this sweater and on another one, I have only the sleeves. So I've got to finish some sleeves and I have a couple more sweaters ready to go. But I do really like that little bits of a contrast color, subtle contrast color in there. And that will be, I've tried it on and it fits really well. And that should be finished relatively soon. So it's a pretty straightforward pattern. Just basically slip stitches and some yarn over rows for doing increases and everything for the detail. So pretty straightforward. And I did another Italian bind off here, or tubular bind off without the tube. Basically I just went directly to a kind of sewn bind off without any setup rows, and I think it turned out well, and so good progress on that one. Now, so the next one, let's see how to, so right now, today, as of today, the last clue for Stephen West's Mystery Knit Along has come out. And yeah, so all I have to show on my projects, I decided to jump in this year, and I jumped in with some yarn from a place called, was it Finished Knits? And I'll provide a link down below. And the reason why I picked it out was when I thought about jumping onto the West Knits project this year, I didn't really have anything in my stash I felt like I could combine. I haven't done it before. This is my first year doing it. But I thought, based on the description, I thought it might be nice to jump in. It sounded like with the gradient and the geo gradient, and it just sounded intriguing about what might be going on in this project. And so I picked these yarns out. Actually, you know what, I'll bring up the bag. You can see my 4 colors in there. Can you see those? Yes, sort of. There's that one color down there. Okay, and these are all from Finished Knits, and they are Lancava Sulo is the yarn. It's a fingering yarn. And the reason why I picked it out is, for one thing, this is a nice set of colors. I like the autumn feel of the colors. And for the second thing, they were just $7.99 a skein. So I could jump into this project without spending in excess of $100 to buy a set of yarns to go with it. So what I'm about to show, my Clue 1 and Clue 2 are complete. And let me explain about Clue 1. I made my own middle up to do Clue 1, and I'll explain it a little bit. And then I'm partway into Clue 3. Now Clue 4 has released today. So if you don't want to be spoiled, you'll want to skip ahead a little bit. But I'm definitely going to talk about this. I feel like by this time most people know what these sections look like, so you should be okay. Now, so we'll hop right in. All right, so for the middle, I decided to do, and I have to laugh about it, these plain 4 squares, because originally I got 3/4 of the way through the original Clue 1 when it got rebooted. And it was funny because when all of that controversy first happened, I was really puzzled because I looked at my Clue 1 and I thought, wow, I don't... what? You know, I couldn't quite figure it out. But then I saw somebody's where they had 3 lighter colors and 1 very pronounced dark color on the last color, 4th color. And definitely, it was quite apparent, and I could totally understand why Stephen West would want to change it and everything. Now, I wasn't that excited about the replacement middle, for one thing, because I'm a lazy knitter a lot of the time, and I just didn't want to do a magic loop starting in the center and working out, and it was just kind of like this bullseye kind of pattern, but square, coming out from the center. And so I thought I'd do something a little different. And what happened was, this idea popped in my head that Monday morning after everything had happened. And I'll tell you what I liked about it was, for one thing, you know, I got a big block of each of the colors. And definitely, you know, you see it's kind of connected up with this one stripe, but I think ultimately, you know, when you think about it, that's going to be okay. I could outline it maybe. But the other thing I liked was that I ended up employing techniques from the first original instructions, and that was picking up stitches along the edge, you know, knitting, kind of building it up that way. And on this last square in particular, I used a technique where he knitted it together with the edge of a finished edge of another object as you knit it. And so it was a really nice technique, and it was really nice to use it as part of this pattern. So then after I finished those initial squares, I put in 4 stripes around them in alignment with his instructions, just picked up the appropriate number of stitches and worked out and got up to the number of stitches called for on the full center square. And then the next step was these eyelet and reverse stockinette kind of bands going out on each side. And I got those done exactly as per instructions. I did not do a mohair dare. Let's see, I'll hold that out. I've got a dark brown mohair, but I've hesitated to include it. I think I won't. I think I'll just stick with these. And then finally, clue 3, because I was traveling, when I saw the instructions for clue 3, I knew I was going to need to concentrate on it a little bit. So I ended up delaying starting it until I got back home. And then I've been working on catching up. But again, what does Stephen West say about pace? You know, use your own pace. And he's got a much more pithy saying than that for it, but I can't remember. So here's my step 3, clue 3, and I feel like it's interplaying the colors really well here. I love how these colors are going together. So I'm about halfway done with this first wedge on one side, and then I'll do the wedge on the other side, the triangle, and then I'll pick up in the new clue number 4 will be next, but I'm in no rush. Embrace your pace, that's it. So I'm embracing my pace. I'm not going to feel rushed about this. I'm going to take my time and get through it. But I'm really happy with the yarn that I got. Let me make sure I have the name right. Yeah, that's it. Lancava Sulo. And it's an interesting yarn because it says that it's superwash, but my experience right now is that it would be great for stranded color work. It has a tendency, it clings to itself really nicely. Pardon me. And so I feel like it's turning out really well, and I'm happy. I mean, I feel like what more fall feeling could you have from those colors right there? And so that it's going to be a really super cozy shawl when it's done. And I am definitely going to make it as big as possible. Based on his last set of instructions, I'm going to take the shawl as far as it can go and everything. And I won't say anything else about clue number 4 in case you haven't seen it yet, stuff. But enjoying this knit along and really happy I jumped in on this. So that's it for the only 2 works in progress. And the main thing here will be acquisitions. Now, let's see, did I? Yes, I've got everything here. And so I've got everything there and ready to go over. So we will start with, recently Wool Warehouse had another sale on the Kid Silk, Drops Kid Silk. And so I decided to buy some to go with a couple of the yarns that I have. I should have gotten out, I got out one of them, I didn't get out the other, but so I will show this. So I picked up actually a lot of this colorway, and I think this is called Old Pink. And so it's this really beautiful kind of dusty pink. And the reason I picked this up is because in my stash I have, it must be, I think around 3,000 yards of this yarn. It's a fingering yarn. Let's see, stash, and let's see if I sort it by yardage, most yardage, and yep, I have. I don't know what I was, don't ask me what I was thinking at the time when I bought this, and this would be a long time ago. This would be in excess of 15 years ago, 20 years ago. I got 3,297 yards of this Brunswick. It's Fairhaven 3-ply fingering yarn. And so I had picked this out actually for a sweater that I have. I'm trying to look to see if I have it around here close somewhere. I have one of those, a white whale pattern. I'll insert a picture one place or the other here. And I would have to look up who wrote it, but I'll put details down below. This is from a magazine I actually got picked up in Great Britain back in the, it would be 1982 to 84. And so it's been on my back burner for a long time. And so I have a lot of this. And I thought, well, I definitely don't need all of this for that sweater. So I thought if I want to do something else with this yarn, it'd be nice to have a mohair to pair. And I think those two go really well together. So I think there's some really nice opportunities for some combinations of yarn there. So that was the first acquisition. The second one was from the same sale, more of the kid silk in black. And this is to go with some breaking yarn I picked up on sale. I'm trying to think, it was probably late last year. They were selling off their current stock of worsted yarn for a really good price. And I picked up this kind of fluorescent pink and black speckled worsted yarn. And I'll put a picture up for my stash. But the idea was to combine it with some, and the thing is, so reboot a little bit, 2 skeins are one dye lot, 2 skeins are another. So, and it's obvious. But I thought I want to combine it all into a sweater, and combining it with some mohair will be a way to reduce the difference along with doing some helical knitting. But I'll figure out what I'll do with that. But I just wanted to have this available to use with that yarn. All right, so those were my Wool Warehouse purchases, and I'll have a link below. And I do recommend, like, I know right now they have their, it's not the kid silk, it's their Surrey and silk combination, which is heavier, a little heavier, that they have on sale right now for, again, a really good price, I think. I'm not going to look it up, but like less, I think it's less than $4 a skein. All right, so now, so that was all of my, oh my goodness, I'm looking through this list of acquisitions. So that was all of my stuff from Wool Warehouse. Now, the next thing that I got was, I am part of Barn Box for Bare Naked Wools. And so for the September box, I got this skein of Blues Singer, Blueface Leicester BFL fingering weight yarn. And these skeins are very generously sized. They're 115 grams. And so this is 450 yards. And so my plan for this is probably going to be a shawl. They have some really nice shawl patterns there. And the feel of this yarn is just lovely. It's got such a nice squish to it. It feels really nice. If you haven't tried Bare Naked Wools, and again, I'm not sponsored at all, but I would definitely recommend it. I really enjoy the Barn Box because not only do you get kind of first crack at one of their new yarns or some short run, some small run that they have, and you get first access to purchase more online. She has a whole Zoom meeting going into the type of sheep that's in, the type of wool that's in here, what the history of that wool is, and how they source it, all kinds of details. Like, the amount of research is just amazing. So I highly recommend checking these out. The barn box is definitely a really nice treat. And you always get, I think, a free pattern along with the yarn each month that you pick out, not just a single pattern offered, but a list that you get to choose from. So it's a really great yarn. And it's really neat to get this stuff that's kind of minimally processed as well. All right, the next one, I go through, so I was at the Rocky Mountain Knitters Retreat, and Marinated Yarns is always there. It kind of has a small, sort of a trunk show kind of thing when she's there. And I like, she's got some great colorways. And so while I was there, grab these up here, I picked up some of her fingering and then selected a color of the mohair, which she shipped me later. But the fingering that I saw that I really liked was this colorway. And it's interesting because in all the photographs that I have and everything, it comes across as very blue, when it's really much more blue-green than that would indicate. So this one, let's see, Enchanted Watch is the name of the colorway. And it's her scrumptious fingering, scrumptious HT fingering weight. And so I thought I'd pick up 2 of those. And then I saw a color of mohair she had. She didn't have 2 skeins there, so she did a couple of skeins for me later. And this is in her airy lace, and this is her lace weight mohair silk. And this is called Sea of Glass. And I think that these 2 will pick up really nicely with each other, and most likely a ranunculus will be what happens. But yeah, it was really nice to see that, and it was a lovely retreat, which I will talk a little bit more about later. And then, so after the marinated, I bought, and I'll put a link for this, as soon as I can find it. Okay, I'm gonna grab these 1, 2, and 3, 4. So Jimmy Bean's wool, sometimes one of the things I like to do there is I like to look at what they have on sale and sort it by cost high to low. So I'm looking for bundles of yarn where there's a good deal and that kind of thing. And so I've seen this, I saw this set on sale, and the original set, I think it was really a nice significant price reduction for this, but it basically had a pattern from Joji Locatelli, Frank, I think the Frank shawl, and I'll put in an image of it. And they had this set that was on sale for that shawl. And it also came with 4 drinking wine glasses also. So it was 4 wine glasses, 4 skeins of madelinetosh, and the pattern. And so with the amount of the discount, and I will link it below, I just felt like it was really worth it to pick up 4 skeins of madelinetosh Tosh Merino Light. And let me take a look. I just want to give you what the percentage discount was. High to low. And there's still some there. Yeah, it was reduced from $160 to $96 for the set, since it includes some glasses, yarn, and a pattern. And so I thought that was a nice price reduction. And so I got some nice neutrals here and a nice pop. Now I probably have other things that will be destined for rather than the Frank shawl. I'll make a decision about that at some point. But it was just nice to get 4 skeins for a pretty reasonable price along with the pattern and everything, and the glasses. I have the glasses up on my shelf now. But yeah, so that was a good deal. So that's one of the ways I look for getting, yarns to augment the stash, as if I need stash augmenting at this point. All right. And then the next thing was, okay, yes. So at the retreat, so I had attended the retreat in Rocky Mountain Knitters Retreat in near Salt Lake City in September, and then I went to the knitting and hiking retreat at Ghost Ranch, sponsored by Knitting New Mexico, run by Knitting New Mexico just a week or so ago. And there was a dyer, Zia Wools, there, and she had sort of like a trunk show or display of her yarn there. And we also got one of her yarns in our swag bag as well as a sample of one of her yarns. So I wanted to show those here. So I have those, and I bought some as well. There it is. Okay. So the yarn, the full skein that was in the swag bag was this Sugarloaf yarn in a colorway for the retreat called Ghost Ranch 2023 Knit 1 Hike 2. And so it was great, the knitting and hiking retreat. But yeah, really beautiful colorway with some great purples and other colors in there. And so yeah, so a nice skein of that. And this one, these are 4 ounces, 4-ounce skeins. So a little more than bit more than 100 grams. And this one has 540 yards in it. So that'll go into my bucket, and we'll figure out, it'll come up at some point and figure out what to do with it. And then we had a little sample of one called Dream Catcher. And it was this little bit of green. So we had a sample of one of the other yarns in there as well. And I also got a bag. I'm not going to go dig that out, but we also got a bag. I can put a photo in at the retreat as well. And then finally, looking at the yarns that Zia Wools had there, I picked out this fingering weight, which has kind of a yellow color, but with all kinds of very pale, kind of very light, creamy yellow. And it has all these different colored speckles in there. And I thought this combined would make a great short sleeve summer top. Maybe the perfect crop top might be an idea. The neat thing about the retreat was Selma from Little Big Knits was there teaching a class on sweater knitting, and she had a couple of the perfect crop top that she wore there, and they looked great. So we shall see, but this is enough basically for a sweater quantity in this fingering weight. So there was that. And then lastly, let's see if I can pull this bag up here. There was another person participating or kind of supporting the retreat in its execution and everything, was someone who'd recently, like within 4 months prior, had opened a yarn shop in Albuquerque called Yarning. And to attend the retreat and support it, her shop was actually closed during that time. Now I'll provide a link to it down below, but one of the things that I wanted to do was to kind of show my support, was to buy a little bit of the yarn. I couldn't stop by, although it's, if you can stop by, definitely stop by. So I bought some through her online shop and had it shipped up here. And so what I picked out was, so if you can go check it out and support it, I highly recommend it. She was really great, and all the help and chatting with her at the retreat and everything. But the first skein that I bought a couple of skeins of Schoppel yarn, Schoppel wool. And this first one's called Gradient. And it goes back and forth between purple to this pink and back. And it's a DK weight. And what I did was I looked at some sweaters that have just a single color work at the top, and saw a lot of examples of using a single ball of this with another solid color to have it so that your color's variegated in through the color work section of it. And so I thought this would be really fun for that. So maybe some kind of dark gray or something like that for the main color of the sweater, but I'll figure it out. And it's I think they describe it as it is definitely a single ply, but I believe it's slightly felted. That's definitely the case for this other version of it, but I will take a look. But that will be for the yoke, a color work yoke for a sweater is the plan for that whenever it comes up. And then the other yarn I picked up was a worsted weight reggae ombre, and again, color changing. This, in this case, a rainbow. And my intent for this is to make a hat, a very simple hat to really show off the gradient. And again, they describe this as, if I can find it somewhere, they describe it as kind of, it's single ply, but it's also slightly felted, has an interesting texture. And so, and I believe it's 100% wool, no nylon or anything like that in it. But I love the idea of a hat out of this. So those, I picked those two up, and I also picked up a canvas, one of these, Delicue bags, a really good sized one. So you can see, so it's almost like a bucket as well to add in there. Like I need more project bags, but I like these heavy duty ones that kind of sit up straight on their own, which are really nice. So that is all the acquisitions. And finally, we get into the yarn randomizer picks that have been picked since last time. Now I put shorts up for both of these. Oh yes, and I have to show you. Okay, I'm ready for that now. So let's get to the first one. This is pick number 27, and this is Lorna's Laces, and this is from a set that came out in 2019. I bought it each month. They're named after national parks, and so this one is Virgin Islands National Park. And so the number that it was in my stash was 190. It got pulled up. And so this one has a destiny. This is not one I have to figure out what to do with it, because I have with me, I have my national park blanket that I've been knitting these yarns into. Now, let's see how well I can pull this out of here. Just as long as I don't unravel it. Oh dear. Yeah, I've definitely got something to do here. Oh well, we'll just hold this together right now, and because I know I took the needles off of this to use for something else, but let's see. Ah, there it is. So you can see this is a pattern. Hold that together. This is the Farmhouse Afghan, and so it's a very nice knitted pattern, and I'm separating segments of the national parks with this driftwood brown, all from Lorna's Laces. And so I have, I think it's, it might be Volcanoes National Park, and this is Red Rocks. I'll come up, I have the list in the project, but yeah. And so this is a blanket that's underway. Let me keep this part together. Okay, there we go. So you can see it's reasonably sized. Now the tricky part with this blanket, I'm going to leave that out so I can put that all back together. The tricky part with this blanket is it's a pattern that's listed, but if you go to the link, it was a free pattern, but if you go to the link, I think it gives you a 404 or something. The pattern was removed, so it's not available online anymore. Now, I don't know how many of you understand or know about the Internet Archive. So the Internet Archive archives web pages in their current state at certain periods of time, going back into the past. So if you want to look at what a page looked like back in, say, 2012, let's say, you could go look at a given page at what it looked like at that time. So if you look up an address in the Internet Archive, it'll show you what archived versions of the page it has available. So what I ended up doing to find this pattern was, when I saw that it was no longer available, but it was originally a free pattern, I looked it up on the Internet Archive and found an archived version of the pattern, and I have that downloaded, and I'm using that as my pattern for this. So I'd say if you're interested in it, I can provide you the link to go get the same. I think I may put it down below, or I may set that up as a request, because my main thing is I don't want to get in trouble for providing something that's not supposed to be available. But bottom line, you can get a hold of it, definitely, because the Internet Archive link will be there. I think I will just go ahead and put the Internet Archive link down there so that you can access the pattern. But yeah, so that pick number 27 goes into that, will be the next color to go into that blanket. And so I'll work on that, bring that out of hibernation and fold in that next yarn. And then the next pick, number 28 for the year, was this skein. It was yarn 207 out of my stash, and it was Lucky Violet Color Company. So, and this is a yarn colorway called Let the Wookie Win. And so I don't know if you remember it from the first Star Wars movie from 1977. There's a point at which they're playing a little game with these little creatures on it on a board that they're kind of animated, holographic, and so Chewbacca is playing with somebody there, and I think that you get some browns representing Chewbacca, but these other colors in here represent the colors of the playing pieces, the animated playing pieces on the board. Now I had picked this yarn up I bought this out of somebody else's stash in Ravelry. So if you've never shopped other people's stashes in Ravelry, I highly recommend it. I do it when I look for sweater quantities of a certain type of yarn, or if I want to try a yarn that I've heard about and that kind of thing. Sometimes I just don't want to order a single skein from somewhere, but sometimes you can find really good deals in people's stashes. So you have to look at all the stashes on Ravelry, look at what people have for sale, and then you can look and see what kind of deal that they have. Now, so this one, what I have decided, or maybe I haven't decided yet, but I think what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to use it double so that it knits up as DK and it kind of defeats some of the pooling, kind of mixes up the colors a little bit more. And there's a scarf similar to the Sophie scarf, and I should have that in my library at this point. Oh yes, there it is. And so there is a little scarf similar, kind of similar in design, one of those little narrow scarves like the Sophie scarf, but it's called the Mini Noah from Fiona Goberstein. And so Goberstein. And she, I like it because it's got some slip stitches for some additional detail in there. And I think this will be a nice way. This has a nice variety of colors in it. And so it'll make a good scarf that goes with a lot of different things. And so I think, now I might change my mind, but I think that's what I'm going to use this for this time. All right. And so that is all the yarn related stuff. I actually have recorded my first sock video already to go over my a retrospective of socks. So I've got to get that processed and ready. I'm also going to be recording next part of my stash tour for the rest of my fingering yarn today. And I'm going to record how to do the work on the stuffy, how you combine 2 layers of a tube to kind of seal off a section with stuffing, and how I do that. Otherwise, the only other thing to talk about really quick is the retreats that I went to. So I went to the retreat, Rocky Mountain Knitters Retreat, and I'll provide links for all these below. I went to the Rocky Mountain Knitters Retreat, which was just a wonderful time. My husband and I went a week ahead of it, and we visited 3 national parks and 3 national monuments, and we hiked every day while we were doing that. And it was really great because my husband had both of his knees replaced in January and February, and so it was nice to get back into getting some more. We're very avid hikers, and we've done some very big hikes in the past, and so it was really nice to get back to doing that. We did some stuff that required some rock scrambling and that kind of stuff, so we really had a great time, and we just saw some amazing things at some of these national parks and national monuments. It was just great. And then he flew back while I stayed at the retreat, and the retreat was just a wonderful time. So many great people to sit and knit with, just a great setting up at the Alta Ski Resort. Lots of hiking available, and the weather was really very nice the whole time I was there, and it was just great to be able to just spend the whole day sitting and knitting and spending time with so many wonderful people knitting, and also eating some really fancy dishes, some really great food as well. They also have, I think, yoga and meditation available, as well as massages that you can sign up for and everything. But I just go there to just sit and knit and enjoy other folks' company, other knitters' company while I'm there, and it was just great. And so I highly recommend it. And I think the Basque knitter who runs that retreat came out, showed her book. She debuted a book at the retreat, and I will provide a link to that as well. It's a lot of color work, which is not my forte. I don't tend to do a lot of stranded color work, although I do it occasionally. I don't know about some of you folks, but I know I'm in my early 60s, and at this point I do have a little bit of arthritis here back at the base of my thumbs. And when normal knitting, no problem, but doing stranded color work or slip stitches tends to slow me down because it does emphasize some discomfort back at my thumb. So, and I'm almost too worried about doing anything about it because I'm kind of like, will I make the situation worse for knitting? Don't know. So one of those internal debates I'm going through. But so that retreat was wonderful. Highly recommend it. Just great setting, great meals, great folks, everything. And then the next one that I went to is Ghost Ranch. If you go to Knitting New Mexico, I think is it Knitting New Mexico? Let's see. Yes, knittingnewmexico.com. That was the Ghost Ranch event, was orchestrated through that page and everything. And it was specified as a knitting and hiking retreat, which I was super excited about to be able to get in. And I got in some hiking each day that I was there. But the Selma from Little Big Knits ran a class there on multiple classes over the days that we were there on how to modify sweater patterns, and it was just filled with great information, really useful, and just so much fun. And we got to see so many great sweaters and so much information on different techniques about modifying sweaters for a whole variety of circumstances that I just can't recommend it enough. She did an incredible job, and it was so nice to meet her. I've been watching the Little Big Knits podcast for a long time and have really enjoyed it. And it was her podcast that really, and seeing her knitting and wearing a ranunculus sweater that convinced me to try one of those out. And I can't recommend that pattern enough. I made a great little sweater with that pattern and plan to do more, which may seem kind of crazy to knit multiple sweaters of the same pattern, but it works so well and it knits up so quickly. So yeah, it was just a great retreat, and it was so much fun. We had a little happy hour each day. We had organized hikes. We had hikes you could do on your own or with small, little groups could self-organize and do. And it was a very rustic setting, is the way I'll describe it. It had, there were multiple, we were up in these 2 cabins up on the hillside, and but there were other groups there. And so when you ate, you had a common cafeteria, kind of a serve yourself kind of setup to go eat at. And as described, the food was sort of basic, but it was actually better than I expected it to be as far as the variety and everything. There were some really, the thing I really sticks out in my mind was they had a green chili macaroni and cheese that had a nice, sharp, hot taste to it. It was very good. But yeah, it was just great. And I cannot wait to go back next year. My husband and I are discussing, it's going to be around Labor Day weekend next year. And we're talking about dovetailing a vacation with that to take in some of the national parks in that kind of northern New Mexico or Arizona area and stuff. So we'll see how that works out. And so if you have never been to a retreat, I highly recommend it. Look local. You'll find local retreats if you want to try one for a less expensive cost. I mean, there is a little retreat that's run out of a yarn shop in Hamilton, Ohio, Lambkin's Hideaway. They have a very affordable retreat that they've done the past couple of years, for a few years now, I think in late February, that happens down at a little location down in southern Indiana. It's a bargain, and again, basic food, but it's just great to sit with folks and knit with other people who can appreciate what you do. Oh yeah, we had show and tell at the Knit New Mexico too, which was just a blast. And I should have brought way too much to show off. I have two retreats. I'm done with retreats for now. So I'll be picking that up again in February, early February with Darn It Anyway at their sweater workshop near Minneapolis, Minnesota. I think it's Stillwater. And then another one and that's an excuse to visit my stepson and his wife, and my husband will come up with me. And then there'll be another one in Austin, Texas, by the Hill Country Weavers. They're knitting in the hills. And that's an excuse to visit my three sons that live down in Austin, Texas together. My three sons all live in one place, so it's very convenient to visit them. So I think that's everything. I think I've caught up on everything. And I think, yeah, I'm done. I'm spacing off here. All right. And Odo, hey Odo. No, he's just sound asleep over there. I'll stick a picture of him up here asleep. Do you want to come over and say hi? You want to come here? You want to come here? No? Okay. I'll just put a picture up of him. He's a little too zonked. But I hope you're all enjoying the beautiful, cooler sweater weather that's going on right now. And I hope everybody who went to Rhinebeck had as good a time as possible. I know there was a lot of trouble with the Woolen Folk event, but everything else, and rain. I guess it had more rain there. I don't know how much rain for the weekend, but I hope you had a great time. I know I want to get back there. I went to Rhinebeck multiple times years ago when it was a less big event. But I'd really like to get back there, probably go on a Sunday when it's less busy, perhaps. But yeah, I hope everybody had a great time with that. And I hope if you get a chance, I know I've got one person who is at the Knitting New Mexico who will be at the Knitting in the Hills retreat. So I'm looking forward to seeing her again. But yeah, so yeah, if you please like and subscribe if you found any of this enjoyable. I hope some of it was helpful or inspiring. And let me know what you're working on, or if you have any ideas or thoughts or questions or anything down in the comments. I try to make sure I answer every comment that shows up on the videos. And I'll see you on the next episode. And enjoy your knits.